Earth's Greatest, written by Dark Prince 010. To say that the initial contact from aliens was shocking would be an understatement of untold proportions. The initial communications made by the Taurians, so nicknamed by amateur astronomers who had observed the torus shape of their ships, were credited with forestalling at least 2 armed conflicts about to bubble over in southeastern Europe and northern Africa. They also sparked a temporary, unspoken ceasefire in the rapidly escalating skirmishes between the United States and Chinese navies in the South China Sea. However, the aliens' language was complex and nuanced, being highly subjective and context-dependent. Even after weeks of work, linguists and codebreakers were only able to make confident guesses at their meaning. Fortunately, their messages seemed to convey goodwill and cooperation, with positive inflections. Their language was much more precise with discussing mathematical constants. Thus, when they shared the coordinates of what appeared to be their mother system, we were surprised to learn that it was a mere dozen light-years away, practically neighbors in the context of the greater galactic expanse. Yet, one area of confusion remained. The Taurians expressed an eager desire to speak with Earth's Greatest, apparently assuming that our fractured species had a single representative body or figurehead. We attempted to communicate that no such individual existed. However, due to either our poor grasp of their language or their equally tenuous understanding of our communications methods, a complex beamed ratio of atomic decays corresponding with specific isotopes, it was unclear if they understood. The Taurians just continued to insist on speaking with Earth's Greatest. Scholars and translators were remarkably consistent in this interpretation, although they admitted room for error. When news of this exact request leaked, it spread like wildfire across the planet, sparking massive protests and heated debates. Presidents of the United States, China, and India argued fiercely over which nation could claim title of the greatest, based on population, wealth, or influence. The arguments seemed designed to spark conflicts of their own, with numerous reports of clashes between protesters and counter-demonstrators, some in favor of and others against alien visitation. However, the Taurians broke the stalemate with a genial announcement. They would visit Earth to speak more with its greatest, and look forward to doing so soon. The keyword more was also polarizing. Translations confirmed its accuracy, fueling speculation that prior discussions with other nations had occurred. This sparked a new wave of accusations, with each country convinced others had secretly communicated with the aliens to form alliances behind the back while publicly lying about their ignorance. Despite these tensions, the world waited with bated breath for the Taurians' arrival as they began to descend. Their descent was gradual and excruciatingly slow. The aliens apparently had no form or need for heat shielding. Many engineers suggested the slow pace was a method to ensure their ship could avoid damage during rapid descent, where human spacecraft would typically use ablative shielding. Still, the slow descent meant finding an approximate area of landing was relatively trivial. News that it was headed towards North America and somewhere within the continental United States was quickly met with despair and suspicion from Indian and Chinese news outlets, and elation and speculation from American outlets about what backroom deals the president might have garnered during secret discussions with the aliens. But then the American channels began to express confusion and concern. During the final hours of descent, it became clear the destination was not Washington, D.C., New York, or the greater Los Angeles megacity. Instead, it was headed towards Utah, which sparked an entirely new set of debates and celebrations, this time many along religious lines. Some wondered if this was a divine gift for the Mormons, with several parish leaders calling for their followers to celebrate the arrival of what might be another lost tribe. Others were simply elated about the newfound influence their city and state leaders might soon wield thanks to these prestigious guests. Even these celebrations were soon riddled with uncertainty as the final landing place became clear, a desolate area of central Utah wilderness. When the ship touched down and the Taurians first emerged, 7 creatures that appeared to resemble sea urchins of vibrant hues. However, they simply rolled past the assembled scientists, soldiers, and journalists who tried to communicate or even threaten them. The aliens simply moved on, unperturbed, and reached the aspen grove. One of the creatures extended a pseudopod and touched the bark of the tree. Together the septet of aliens began to hum, a sound droning alternatively between harmony and dissonance. For nearly an hour, the sound continued, until it abruptly stopped. The creatures then rolled back, carefully avoiding the few foolhardy soldiers who tried to block their path, and returned to the craft. Before the Taurians took off, one final message was translated. "We have spoken with your greatest. They have raised concerns about whether your species is best suited as caretakers of this planet, and have asked that we return at a later date, that we may again assess whether your kind is ready for the gifts of knowledge we would bring. Farewell." The aliens left, departing as slowly as they had arrived. Now, the discussion pivoted to botanists, arborists, and the Pando forest the aliens had spoken with, in what became a widely quoted remark in the years to follow. A local wildlife ranger who had worked in the Pando Reserve for more than a decade said that she couldn't quite explain it, but felt like the forest was feeling smug about itself. End of story. Story number 2, We Came to Conquer and Ended Up Being Served, written by Becauseisaidsotoo. To my esteemed council of the Zenith Clade, this is Captain Yesthax of the Voracious Dawn, sending this transmission with the gravest of warnings. By the time you receive it, I fear our fleet may already be lost. Yet, I must try, for the survival of Zolthal depends on it. Let me state this plainly, as much as it pains me to utter these words. The humans eat us, not metaphorically, not symbolically. They consume our flesh with the enthusiasm that defies understanding. I know how absurd this sounds. I scarcely believed it myself, even as I watched it happen. What follows is my account, such as it is, made serve as both a warning and a plea. 3 rotations ago, we arrived in Earth's orbit. It was meant to be a routine conquest. Humanity's technology was laughable by our standards. Their crude metal crafts barely worthy of the name ships. Their communications channels were cluttered with meaningless signals, babbling voices, repetitive tones, and endless songs. The confidence of the fleet was absolute. We, the Zolthal, had faced far greater adversaries and emerged triumphant. As the flagships of the Armada, the Voracious Dawn led the charge. Our warriors descended on the planet in waves, scattering humans like leaves in a storm. Their resistance was chaotic and disorganized. Their weapons, while powerful, lacked the precision to penetrate our energy shields. It was, as we expected, another swift victory in the annals of Zolthal domination. But then came the incident. It happened in a region the humans called Florida. A squad of our warriors reported encountering an unusual militia, disorganized, yes, but uncharacteristically bold. The humans fought with desperation, their primitive firearms quickly expended, and then something unthinkable occurred. A human, weaponless and bleeding, leapt at one of our warriors. It bit into his arm. Bit. The report seems almost too ridiculous to file. A barbaric act of desperation, I thought. But then the human grinned, an expression I know to be one of delight, and exclaimed something our translators rendered as "tastes like crab." What followed can only be described as chaos. The other humans, emboldened, did the same. They tore at our warrior's carapace with bare hands and teeth. At first, we dismissed it as an anomaly, a fluke. But similar reports began streaming in from other regions. Across the planet, humans had discovered a horrifying truth. Zolthal flesh is not only edible, but, to their primitive palates, delicious. Their behavior shifted. They began hunting us. Not like soldiers, but like predators. I must pause here. Even now, recounting this fills me with shame. The Zolthal are warriors. We do not fear death. But to be eaten, to have one's flesh savored like a delicacy, there are no words in our language for such dishonor. I witnessed the turning point with my own eyes during the assault on their capital. A warrior, Varul, was captured by a group of humans after his shield generator failed. I expected him to die quickly, perhaps under their crude blades and fire sticks. Instead, they overpowered him, tore at his carapace, and began consuming him on the spot. One of them, a female, I believe, shouted, "Get the butter!" as the others howled in delight. From that moment, the tide of battle turned. The humans were no longer disorganized prey. They became hunters, relentless and ingenious. They set traps baited with their own food, knowing that we would investigate. Warriors who entered these traps were never seen again. Smoke and laughter rose from their encampments, and the stench of cooked flesh filled the air. Our scientists worked desperately to uncover the source of this nightmare. Their findings chilled us to our very core. Human digestive systems, unlike those of most species, can process an astonishing variety of organic matter. Our flesh, rich in proteins and similar to certain aquatic creatures they consume, was not only digestible but, according to them, delightful. Worse still, their digestive enzymes neutralize our natural toxins. We tried to adapt. Our engineers outfitted warriors with reinforced exoskeletal armor. It slowed the humans temporarily, until they discovered fire. They began cooking us, claiming it improved the flavor. I must confess something now, something I have not even shared with my crew. During the final evacuation, I saw a human from the viewport of the voracious dawn. He was standing atop the ruins of a destroyed shuttle, holding the severed claw of one of our warriors like a trophy. He bit into it and laughed. At that moment, I felt something I'd never known before. Fear. Not the instinctive fear of danger or death, no. This was deeper. A realization that we were no longer the masters of this galaxy. We were food. The fleet dissolved into chaos. Captains abandoned their posts. Ships fled in every direction, and I stayed too long, hoping for some last-minute reversal. But humanity had already won. The ingenuity is terrifying. They salvaged wreckage from our ships, mimicking our technology with frightening speed. I escaped with a handful of survivors. But as we left Earth's orbit, I saw something that haunts my dreams. A massive human vessel, crude but unmistakable, laden with captured Zolthal. They are coming for us, not as conquerors, but as hunters. Counselors, I beg you to heed this warning, strengthen our fleets, prepare our defenses, but most of all, find a way to render us inedible. If we do not, humanity will devour us to extinction. This is Captain Yothax, formerly of the glorious fleet of Zolthal. I send this transmission with what little hope remains. End transmission. End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Caspar Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.